Welcome to Chaotic Harmony. My name is John.
This is Crystal.
I'm Mark.
I'm Zoe.
We talk about the joys and the challenges of teaching music in the elementary school classroom. We share inspiration, we share struggles, we brainstorm solutions. We would love to have you join us.
Welcome to Chaotic Harmony, the podcast where we talk about the joys and challenges of making and teaching music in the elementary music classroom. And we have a special guest. We're actually missing Zoe.
Zoe is off gallivanting through Spain right
Gallivanting, yes, indeed. But this week, we're going through some ORF training, and we have a friend of ours from up north. Her name is...
Hi, I'm Victoria Boler.
Hello, Victoria.
Hi, Victoria.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Victoria's joined us last year for ORF Level 2, and we're having ORF Level 3 right now, and might as well talk about music with you, because you're awesome, just saying.
And I'm here.
You are.
And Zoe's
That's awesome.
It's
not.
very convenient. So thanks for joining.
Zoe Wright.
Exactly. So first off, Victoria, as we always do, beginning episode, we go through the program notes, talking about who you are. So, who are you? Who are you? Tell me. I command it. Who are you?
Hi there. I'm Victoria Boler. I'm an elementary music teacher. I live in Southern California, and I teach TK through 5th grade, general music, but also choir and percussion ensemble.
Awesome. How long have you been teaching?
I am leaving my 3rd year.
Okay. Cool.
All right, but I feel like we need to also explain that Victoria is not just your average third-year teacher here. She's kind of a powerhouse.
Yeah.
Your online presence is impressive. So you don't just teach in the classroom. You have a lot of resources out there in the world. So what is it that you do for other people, too?
Okay, so something that is really unique about music teachers in our generation is that we have the opportunity to be so interconnected with each other, right? Like what you guys are doing right here is a great example of that. Crystal, you were talking about how you didn't have that cohort, you didn't have that group of people when you were starting. And that's something that I think a lot of us can identify, and it's getting easier and easier and easier to find your people and find the people you gel with and find the people who you can really walk side by side with throughout this journey. Because it's a mess, right? Teaching is a mess.
Well, and it can be lonely.
Yes.
Yeah, you're the only weird music teacher at your school.
Right.
You know, yeah.
Right. Or even if you are at, like my school is TK through 8th grade, and I'm actually not the only music teacher, but I am the only general music teacher.
Okay.
You know, so you're the only person who has your specific avenue.
Sure.
So when I was working through my process of what I wanted my classroom to be like, and what I wanted my process to be, my approach, I started documenting it through a blog. My website is wemakethemusic.org, and it was just where I kind of kept myself accountable for teaching ideas and how I wanted to implement them. Because what I found about teaching is that before you step into the classroom, for me, I needed to really go through and be so thorough in my thinking of my process. So what was going to happen if a student did this? What would happen if they did the opposite? What would happen if there was a flu and there were only 6 students that day, right?
Has it
Sure.
happened?
No, not
Okay,
yet.
that's good.
If they're on my
Epidemic wiped them out.
I have heard of that
Get
happening,
your flu
right?
shots, people.
Yeah, get your flu shot. That's what I'm
Right.
saying. That's what I want this podcast to really go towards.
Thesis.
So I started just documenting my ideas, and then it kind of grew. And the more I learned and studied, the more I was able to write about. And it's been a really gratifying process that's allowed me to sink my teeth into concepts. And for someone who processes by writing things out, it was a really wonderful avenue for that.
Right, but you're not just writing them out, you're putting them out there into the world and sharing them, which is really cool. So,
Yeah.
and I love your videos too, because you'll
thank you.
take a really simple, you know, all of our music is simple, but it takes time to go through the ORF volumes or whatever
for
resources
sure.
you're using and figure it out. And for me, it's so much easier to just, I wonder what Victoria's up to, or, you know, one of the other teachers that I follow on social media, and
Sure.
watch you hammer it out on one of the xylophones. So it saves a lot of time.
I also must say, like, you talk about, like, how you really think about the process and think about the fine detail. It's also seen, if you haven't been to her website, it is very, you can know it's yours. Everything is to a T, which is wonderful. I know
Thank
it's your
you.
stuff just by the design.
Oh my
it's very
goodness.
intentional. From the videos and also the worksheets. She has a bunch of stuff on it. You should check it out.
Since we're bragging about Victoria, I'll continue that train.
do.
Right. Do it,
I've
Mark.
used several of your resources
No
throughout this
way.
last year. Yeah, and it's just been incredibly helpful.
Oh my
and
goodness.
I'm not an organized person, and I know that about myself. And with your materials, it helps me stay more organized. And I'm still not great at it, but
Sure.
it's better.
Sure.
So,
That's huge.
yeah.
That's huge.
So I appreciate that.
That
Thanks.
is it. Yeah, I put a lot of time and thought behind how things look because I tend to be a little bit visually oriented. So I want it in a graph and I want to know what comes next. And even if I put something on the website, I try really hard when I put things on the website to say every teacher is different, every classroom is different. Your situation is not my situation. But you need a template, right? Like you need a place to start. And
Absolutely.
that is the beauty of this approach is like it can be anything. What's the sequence? It's whatever works for you. And after a while I get so tired of my ORF teachers telling me that. And after I guess I was in my level 1 where I was like, I know, but what do you do?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like, I want to know what you do because I'm not going to copy it, but I need a place to start, you know?
Yeah.
So I try to be careful when I put my spin on things online. I try really hard to make sure that people understand it's my perspective and I want it to be helpful, but I'm not saying it's the perspective.
Sure,
you know?
absolutely. But you got to have a springboard. And I'm grateful for any of them that I can find.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's good to compare, right?
Definitely.
Because if you only think that there's one way to do it, which is the way that you have ended up doing in your classroom because you keep failing and you've just kind of failed into this avenue,
Yeah.
then you don't have enough. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
Fail
I do.
into my teaching process.
Yeah, those were chuckles of solidarity.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think just as many references as we can get, especially if it's from a community of people like the ORF community that you know is so grounded in a child-centered process and what is best for the student. So
Yeah.
You talk
that's-
about.
Oh,
No, go for it. No?
Nope.
Okay. Well, you talk about how. Oh yes, the upbringing, like how you want how your upbringing. Poop. If you remember what you're saying, then mine will come out
poop
later.
on a podcast.
Poop on a podcast. This is the second time we've said
Second
it, so
time.
I'm fine with that. It's both from me, so that's.
I was going to backtrack.
I was going to backtrack too, but
Okay.
go for it.
I was wondering, did you have an elementary music teacher when you were growing up?
That's what I was segueing towards.
Okay.
But there was
job.
an idea
Yeah.
that was going to go. Yeah. Anywho, continue.
I did.
Okay.
He sells insurance now.
Oh.
Interesting.
Fascinating.
What did your music education look like when you were little elementary school Victoria?
Sure. I was the elementary, well, you wouldn't know this from how I act at ORF, but I was a very quiet student, and I really wanted to please my teacher and do
Oh, I
everything.
can see that totally.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good that you can see that. I feel like I talk too much in class. I feel like,
Do you know who you're talking to right now?
Yeah, seriously.
You get the death stare.
Yeah.
like, shut her up, Lord. So my parents both really, really love music. My dad is a singer, and he is very into classical music. And so from a really young age, he was teaching us what to listen for when we listen to music, which is huge.
Yes.
He has training from the vocal side.
Okay.
And so he always, he's too hard on himself about how he doesn't read music, but that was something that he really wanted for us. And he does read music, but it's not as strong as he would like. So for us, he taught us what to listen for in terms of different styles of classical music, and is it a concerto or is it a symphony, or are you listening to a string quartet? Like, what's the instrumentation? What the
Wow.
voice is doing? Oh, he's brilliant. He's incredible. And when we were driving to school, we would play a fun game where we would listen to the classical station and guess who the composer might be and why you think it
Yeah.
might be that composer. And then you walk into your first day of music history And the professor says, listen to this, take out a sheet of paper and tell me who is the composer and why you think that. And I was like, oh, I love this game. I play this game all the time. And I actually wasn't that great at it. My sister Catherine was much better. But all that to say, I had a backdrop of not necessarily a lot of literacy from home, but a lot of listening skills. And that has absolutely impacted my philosophy of education as a whole. So, so lots of music in the home, lots of critical listening at home, including lyrics. And then I have 3 sisters, and we were all put into piano lessons at 6. Before that, we did kinder music. And we got into piano lessons, and we hated it. And we cried until we hit, I think the rule was you have to cry through piano lessons until 10th grade. And then I think we were allowed to quit in 10th grade.
Did you all?
All of us did, yes. Okay. Yeah, we cried our way through. And I quit in 10th grade, and maybe 6 months or so went by, and I was like, what is happening? And I jumped back in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my sister did as well, and she's a band director now.
Okay.
And the 2 that left waved goodbye, and that was it for them.
And that's okay.
And that's fine.
That is fine.
Exactly.
What a solid foundation you had, though. That's pretty incredible.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So my note reading was very strong from piano lessons, and then my listening was really strong from my dad.
Okay. What part of the country did you grow up in?
I'm from East Tennessee.
Okay.
So I grew up, if you know where Nashville is, I was close to Nashville. And then if you go outside Nashville, there's a city called Chattanooga, and that's closer to me. And then if you go outside Chattanooga, there's a tiny little town called Cleveland, and that was home.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what does music ed look like in schools out there? Because we've talked about how we all pretty much grew up in a veritable elementary music desert.
Oh,
so that's why I'm asking. What did it look like for you?
Okay, so that is interesting. When I moved here, and I was like, all right, let's have some music ed job applications. They're like, there are jobs here.
Yeah, those haven't been around for a long time.
And I was like, I am shocked. Why did I move to California? Oh, dear. So when I was in school, we had a full-time music teacher, and I had music every day. I had music once a week for my whole entire elementary career.
Cool.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was just normal.
It was normal.
Yeah,
And
it's a
I
normal
had
part of your
never
day.
heard of a school not having music. A couple counties over from us, I remember that there were some budget cuts, and they were going to cut the music program, and the whole community got together and paid that teacher's
Right.
salary.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was just unheard of. It was unthinkable. Another reason is that the marching band culture
Yes.
in my area was quite strong. And so people couldn't really fathom music not being a part of the school system,
Right.
because they knew what they envisioned it going towards. And
Right.
the goal of the music education program in that kind of mindset was to feed the high school marching band.
Yeah, absolutely. I had that when I lived in Alabama too, so I completely understand. Marching band's a really big deal. Yeah. Okay, so
Very
you grew up
different
in just a little bit. So you grew up steeped in that. When did you know that you wanted to be a music teacher when you grew up?
I knew that I wanted to be a music teacher, but I didn't know that I wanted to do elementary.
Okay.
My experience was not one that I wanted to give to other students. And because it was my perspective, I thought it was everything elementary, right? The lens from which I viewed education in the elementary setting was what I thought it was across the country, across any other capacity. And that was my perception of what students were capable of doing, what child-centered music was, and my perception of elementary music was that it was not musically fulfilling and not cognitively something that I wanted to sink my teeth into.
Okay.
So, like most people, I thought that I wanted to be a high school choir director or a high school band director. Very few people I talked to set out wanting to be an elementary music teacher. And I don't know why. Because it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Yeah. And so I got to college and I did a double major with voice and percussion because I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a high school band director or a high school choir director. So I wanted to cover both my bases. And so I did a double major there.
As one does.
As one does
Right.
when you like doing 2 juries and 2 senior recitals and all of that. Yeah, it was great. And then in my process, you have to observe people in the area. And I observed a woman, her name's Kara, and she transformed the way I perceived elementary music.
Wow.
I walked into her classroom. Well, I should back up. In my elementary school, we sat in chairs and we sat in rows and we pulled out the textbook and we copied notes about Mozart, and I got a lot of really good note-taking skills from my music teacher.
Oh my
and
goodness.
I say it like kind of sarcastic, but actually not really.
Sure.
He was
Right.
like, "Here's a tip, second graders, don't look at he was like, don't look at each individual word and then write it down and then look at the next word." He was like, "I have a tip. Look at the whole phrase and write down the whole phrase." And I was like, "Ooh, that's good. Thank you." And that was helpful.
Little quiet teacher pleasing Victoria.
Like,
loud taking notes.
wonderful.
So you learn notes in second grade.
Yeah,
Just
right.
I did learn
just
notes.
different
Yeah.
kinds. Yeah, that makes sense.
Notation was a big part of my training.
Oh
yes.
my goodness.
So anyway, that was my experience, and it was someone who was just tired of teaching, and he was unhappy, and it translated into his classroom.
This is an insurance man, right?
Yes. Yes.
I was going to ask for that. Okay.
Yes, he sells insurance now. I think he's very happy.
Way to be happy.
Oh, I hope this doesn't ever come around to his ears. Now here's something really exciting. He did write an opera about bees, and it was wonderful. But the thing you might need to edit this out because I would be sad. Like, I don't want to just slam him because he was working through his own process.
All of this.
Are we going to recreate the bees opera right now?
Sing it.
Do it.
And I was one of the main characters, and this guy Kyle was, I think, my son, and it was a storyline. I was the Queen Bee. You might be familiar with Queen Bee. Yes, that was me. And it was a storyline about collecting honey and whatnot, but he got so mad at us about his opera that we weren't doing it well enough. And he was like, "I stayed up all night working on this opera, and you kids just keep talking. Put a sock in it." And that was something that he used to say, "Put a sock in it." So,
okay.
you seriously might need to edit that out.
Okay.
Your perception
Anyway,
of elementary
good
music was amazing.
It was really good.
That's what our opener's going to be.
Yeah.
Put a
You
sock
put
in
a
it.
sock in it. Okay.
He would say that. He'd say, "Put a sock in it." And I was like, "I don't. Ew. That's so gross."
Used, unused.
Right. Doesn't
My
matter.
sock,
Don't.
someone else's sock.
Do you have a spare?
I wear flip-flops to school.
But that to say, like, his one, I know, I'm sorry, his attempt to make it child-centered and fun, we're going to add movement, and it's going to have a storyline, dissolved very quickly into, "You kids don't take my artistic work seriously enough."
Yeah.
And we didn't. It was an opera about bees.
Was the narrative good in retrospect?
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
Okay.
No, looking back, I'm sure it did take him a long time to do, and we weren't up for the task.
You were
It's
elementary
okay.
kids.
Yeah.
You were a little kid.
I was trying so hard, but no.
So it's safe to say your elementary music experience was a little all over the place, but
Yes. Okay. And I was going somewhere. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Crystal.
that's
I'm sorry,
okay.
Crystal. I'm back now.
okay.
So I
Welcome.
had, thank you so much. It was really fun to go off on that tangent. So I had an elementary experience that was quite structured and lacked some of the intrinsic joy that there is in elementary music making in our classrooms. And so because of that, I did not want to go into elementary music, but I had a fabulous high school experience. And so that's where I decided that I wanted to land. So I ended up observing a teacher who had all 3 of her Korai levels, and at the time she had completed her first Orff level.
Okay.
Okay.
And what I saw in her teaching was a blend of this knowledge-based approach where students were actively involved in the material. So I walked in the first day and these kids were moving and they were playing instruments and they were singing. And she said, what can we do to make it more interesting? And the kids in chorus said, let's add an ostinato. And I didn't learn about what an ostinato was until I was in high school. And then when I was in high school, it was, here's the music. That's an ostinato.
Right.
And in her classroom, it was, well, what's the song about? What could our ostinato be? And so then the kids just create this organic ostinato rhythmic pattern. And she says, could you notate it? And they're like, sure, it's ta, ta, ti, ti, ta. She's like, excellent, let me write it down. Let's add to it. Let's, move to it. Let's add some instruments. Here's the instrument part you could consider. Get in small groups and work on it, And it blew my mind because while the kids were playing and singing and moving and dancing, they were working on form and they were working on texture and expression and harmony, and they were working on balance in the ensemble, and they were working on literacy from the avenue of ear training, not hold up the flashcard. What is this? Quarter note. What is this? Half note.
Right.
And I didn't know that kids were capable of things like that. Things like arranging and improvising and composing. Those were things that I did not start doing until I got to college or high school, really high school jazz band. And when I was in high school jazz band, they were like, everyone, we get to improvise now. And I was like, no, no. But her kid, she's like, let's improvise. And they're like, great, that'd be so much fun. And that totally transformed my career direction.
Wow. In the middle of college?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And what I saw in her classroom were musical skills and musical processes that I had not been asked to do until my secondary education.
Okay. Wow. That's quite a story. So, did you start teaching in Southern California? Was that your first teaching post?
My first teaching post was actually a maternity leave while I was still in my undergrad.
Okay.
And I had a really amazing professor. My advisor was able to move my classes around so that I could take this teacher's full-time job and then leave the school and go to my collegiate classes at night. So I would teach 7:30 to 3:30, and then go to classes. And that was my first position.
And
Wow.
How was that for you? Like, that's just a ton on your plate.
That is a lot.
So
That was a lot on my
first
plate.
year teaching, still in college. Like, how'd you balance it?
I just breathed it. That was it. I woke up, I went to school, and I came home, and I did school, and then I went and did more school.
Yeah.
And
you get through it.
yeah, you get through it. And actually, and it's funny you ask that, and this isn't something that I talked about at the time, but I questioned again, actually, if I wanted to go into music ed. And I decided that the reason I was doubting it was because it wasn't my program. It was a strong music program, but I don't know, they weren't my kids, and I could tell that they weren't my kids, and I wasn't their teacher, and I could tell that they didn't really view me as their teacher. And this was before I had gone through student teaching. This was before I had my degree. So there were definitely times in that span of teaching that I felt essentially just lost.
Sure.
Yeah. Mostly classroom management, because this teacher was very streamlined in her approach. She was very knowledgeable. But like when the kids walked in, I was like, what do I do with you? Like, you're everywhere.
Yeah.
I've asked myself that question many times.
I do.
That sounds like it would have been so valuable, though, because when you're thrown into, the fray your first year of teaching and you no longer have that network of college professors to be like, what do I do? Yeah, it can be a lot of reaching and experimenting and and a pretty spectacular failure.
It was a spectacular failure. I talk about failing. When I talk about failing into the way you teach, it's like, that was it. Like, it didn't work yesterday. Let's try something else. Interesting. That did not work either. Let's try something else. Wow, that did not work. And then by Friday, you have your opening procedure.
Sure.
But man, that's a tough way to learn. That's a tough way to learn, y'all.
It's the best way to learn, though.
It is a surefire way.
It sure is.
It's definitely a humbling way.
It's a humbling way.
Beats you up a little bit. And I think for teachers, and I don't know how you guys felt, but like my first year, I felt beat up all the time. But I felt like I couldn't talk about it because all these teachers around me, these veteran teachers, they seem to have everything in order. But I'm like, I'm struggling here. How do I do this? Oh, no one knows because they're not trying to build a music program from nothing. You know, they have curriculum. They know what they're doing.
It's very different.
I'm just floating.
I think I don't know if I mentioned this in my podcast, but there's a huge feeling of reassurance when one of the general ed teachers teaches first grade said, I didn't feel fully comfortable until after 10 years of teaching. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good.
So, Victoria, I got really excited when I asked you what you wanted to talk about on the podcast today, and you mentioned authentic assessment through informances and educating your principals and admin through informances. Because a couple of months ago, Marc Keehmer came into our music teacher monthly meeting right here. That one. That guy. And we were talking about how do we educate our communities and our administrators on what the goals of our programs are when they don't have any experience with it. And he said, oh, you know what? You remember Victoria Boler? She just talked about that on her Instagram feed. And we all, went to Victoria. So talk to us. Yay! So tell us what you've learned and what you've put out into the world to share about it. Yeah.
Right, sure. So the deal with educating administration and parents is it's helpful to just consider what it is they think you do and what they want you to do. And most of the time, the only thing parents want is for their kids to have fun in music. And if they can learn something in the process, all the better. But parents don't have a very clear idea of what their kids could learn because what they see as a music education or an arts education is something like their kid standing on stage and doing a dance with lights and a dress and everybody goes, oh, isn't she cute? Right? And everyone's just like happy, oh, wonderful. And so that's the parent side. They want to see their kids successful and having fun. And that's kind of it for parents. That's it. For administration, pretty much the same thing because most administrators don't really know, maybe I'm generalizing and I don't mean to. Most administrators don't really know why we have a music program, but they know it's good and they know we need it and they know it's right for our kids. But if you were to ask them on the spot, like, so what value does music bring to your school? They might say something like, oh, it builds community and our kids have so much fun. And you say, yes, you're right. Wonderful. And that's your starting point. But the reality of our classrooms is that students walk in and they are actively creating, improvising, they are arranging, they are doing form, they're doing part work, and it is all the wheelhouse, the motor is student creativity. And that is huge. At least if you're doing the ORF approach, that is gigantic, right? That is everything. And so with this move in education towards things like maker spaces where students are exploring and thinking of new innovative ways to solve problems, I listened to some professional development about that avenue of work and I'm like, oh yeah, we do that. That's ORF.
Yeah.
You're describing ORF, but at the end you made a birdhouse and I made a song.
Right.
But it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Or the process of the responsive classroom or the process of project-based learning,
right?
Where everything's integrated,
collaborative conversations.
Yes. So all of these vocabulary words, things that principals know how to say, we have those too, but we call them different things, right? A principal is not going to say, "Oh, we want all of our kids to be able to improvise." But the principal will say, we want them to be active learners that can empathize and view a problem from many different angles and use a variety of sources to solve problems. And so a lot of it is just meeting those people where they are with language that they understand. And so when I was I was very fortunate to be at a very established school that had a very strong performance background, and that was wonderful. And with that came the expectation that music happens when the lights go down, the lights on stage go on, everybody walks out in their rows, they sing a song, they walk off, and everyone's happy. Sure. Everyone's happy. But that's not what our classrooms are. And I was so uncomfortable with the idea of stopping all of this student-driven work, all of the movement that students are creating, all of the instrumentation, all of the collaborative work and the student-driven work that they were doing, stopping all of that to learn a song by rote. To put it on stage.
Sure.
That's not helpful. That's not helpful.
No.
In fact, it's damaging because when you think about your music program as your iceberg, you are showing parents the tip of the iceberg, right?
Sure, yeah.
And it's one skill. It's one skill. It's one skill, and there was one process. That stresses me out because that's not what we do.
Right.
That's not what we do. That's not education.
No, it's just copy pasta.
Boom. Yes, exactly.
Wow. Yeah, you just
Exactly.
gave voice to something that I've been trying to articulate for years. So thank you for that. Yeah. And I tell everyone that performances really stress me out. And principals are always like, oh my God, why?
Right.
Because it's like, isn't that your job? You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they think that's all you do because that's all we show year after year after
But
year after year.
98% of what we're doing is not putting kids on stage.
Especially in places where the arts are finally coming back.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
mean, maybe I don't know what it's like in the Midwest or where music communities are strong, but
Sure.
especially here in California where music's finally slowly coming back, their perception of what music education is what they
Yes.
see on TV.
Yes.
It's what they see here on the radio, but it's never the process.
Right.
Or it's what they
Process.
had in high school or saw in high school, which
There you
was
go.
band and choir, and they had all
Right.
these concerts, and
Still
that's all.
performance.
That's right, and that's
Yeah.
all music education was. You know?
Yeah.
And so they're coming at it from that angle,
Right.
where they don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And so I wanted to really showcase that everything they were excited about their students doing in the classroom, we were doing here. And I don't mean that we were singing songs about times tables. And I don't mean that we were learning geography.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah,
Because that's
right.
not what I do. But the process of learning how to use your voice, your musical voice, learning how to have something worth saying, and how to listen to other people's voices. Those are my two things. It boils down to I want students to use their creative voice with confidence and interact with the creative voices of others. And that's it. And that's huge. But it's very different from memorizing a song from a musical and plopping it on the stage and everybody applauding.
Definitely.
So I wanted something that focused on the process. I wanted to be very process oriented.
Yeah.
And so I asked my principal if I could do it, and I gave her a spiel like, well, actually in music, there's a lot of student-driven work, and students are creating the bulk of the material, and I give them a prompt, and they take it from there. And my principal was like, that is incredible. I have never heard of anything like this. And I was like, of course, that's not what we put on stage, but it's what we do.
Yeah.
So I wanted to take a typical music class and put it on a stage. A lot of people, when they approach an informant, will put chairs around the perimeter of their classroom, and they bring their parents in, and the parents sit around the classroom. You have just a normal music class. And that is an amazing way to do it. And it's absolutely the approach that I would probably recommend if you're getting started with this kind of presentation. The reason I chose not to do it that way and to do something a little bit more staged and a little bit more formal was because my school did have this very strong performance background. So
Right.
it wasn't an option to be like, I don't think we'll do anything in the spring this year. Right? That wasn't going to fly.
This is
Yeah.
what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to do a performance, but you're going to watch kids improvise on stage, and you're going to watch them dance, and then you're going to have a bunch of program notes that says how they came up with these final products, and it's going to be different than anything you've ever seen.
So walk me through what it looked like.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will take one. I ended up combining grade levels. I did a second and third, which is the one I'll talk to you about. So I did a TK on their own, and then a K1 and a second third.
Okay.
Second and third grade did the book It
Day
was
the Crayons
awesome.
Quit, or the
Day
Purple
the Crayons
Crayon.
Quit. Oh, I did do Harold and the Purple Crayon
That's what it was,
with
yeah.
K1.
I saw that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was amazing.
Yeah.
The cooler one was 2nd and 3rd grade. And it was so cool that
Wasn't it about a bear? No.
we're going on a bear hunt with TK.
Okay.
You guys are incredible.
We follow you.
We like your content. We think you're
That was
amazing.
my 2nd, 3rd. It was so much more fun. 2nd and 3rd grade is like my wheelhouse. Like 2nd and 3rd graders are my people. They're my people. Because, well, that's a tangent, but they can just do so much. They blow me away. It's amazing. What do you do with an idea? Was the book.
Okay.
Which is much less well known than Purple Crayon or Bear Hunt, but still amazing. And it was a beautiful tie-in to the Orff Schulwerk process. So at the very beginning, I'm the person who plans my year out in advance. And I don't mean that I plan out every activity, but I have a very clear roadmap of what I view a 2nd grade musician as and what I view a 3rd grade musician. So I know that by the end of the year, I have these concepts and I have these skills that I want them to know and be able to articulate and use in a creative way. From there, I back up. And so I will have my songs picked out at the beginning of the year for the whole time. And that helps me plan and implement. So I am going to take a book and I'm going to open it and I'm going to walk through it with Post-it notes and think about what songs I could use on what specific pages. And then I make your chart, your diagram that you would have made in like your high school English class, where I have the song. I have a song title and then a bunch of different branches. So how could we play? How could we move? How could we sing?
Yeah.
And then through a combination of seesaw videos, showing parents like individual, like little clips of our classroom, that builds a lot of parent awareness. It builds a lot of administrative awareness about what the process is.
Okay.
Seesaw videos leading up to the Informants itself, where students are able to showcase their musical knowledge in a performance. And it's not a performance that I've created, it's a performance that they have created. And I'm very clear with the parents. And in the program notes, it says, it'll be like engine number 9 arranged by 1L, right? And I always say arranged by whatever the class was. So at the beginning of the program, I give a spiel about how they're going to see things that are improvised, and I tell them what improvisation is. I'm going to say your kids don't know what they're going to do. They have to make it up on the spot. And parents are like, whoa, that's amazing, right? Or I'll say, you're going to see some movement, and I didn't teach them the movement. They came up with it, and it's in ABA form, so please watch for ABA form. Or I'll say, you're going to hear them do some ostinato work, and this is our ostinato. It sounds like this. And then you're going to hear them sing it in a round. That's when this part comes in, and then this part comes in. And I didn't tell them to do that. They decided that that would be the best form, the best structure for this song. And they chose it because it's their favorite and they love it so much. So that happens with me verbalizing it. It happens with them seeing the process through seesaw videos. So they'll watch a song take form, and they'll watch students not be able to do it well. And I'll say in the seesaw notes, like, this is a skill we're working on. When you watch this with your child, emphasize the work that your child is doing and encourage them in the work that they're doing. It's not a talent, it's a skill. And I need parents to see that, and I need parents to be that voice to their children at home, that it's a skill they're working on. And there are lots of tangents I could go on there.
Sure. There's education every single step of the way, and it's very intentional.
Yes. So my parents are seeing those videos. My administration is seeing those videos. And then when it gets to the end result, I can decorate hallways with student work, so individual student compositions. And those line the hallways as parents are walking into the auditorium.
That's cool.
That is cool. And then afterwards, kids can go and point at theirs, like, this is mine. This is mine. And what you saw on stage was this idea, but this one was mine, you know? And how easy is that to do, right? And it doesn't have to be standard notation. It could be graphic notation. But if the purpose of notation is to communicate a musical idea, how simple is it just to say like, oh, I need to save that. And you just plop it on the wall.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So parents are walking by and they're very impressed that their kids are writing their own music because the parents can't read it, but they know it's music and they are very impressed.
Definitely.
And then I will have a slide going for every new piece that shows a picture of the book, whatever page we're on, or it will have the national standard or the state standard that we're covering with that. I want parents to see that our music program is not something that I woke up and decided to teach a specific way. I didn't just like wake up and decide to teach engine number 9. Right? It has to do with a process that is the same, a set of standards. In the same way that they have standards for any other subject, we are the same, and we are not valuable because of the value we give other subjects. We are valuable in and of themselves. And so if national standards are language that parents can relate to, if that's something that teachers can relate to, then yes, and we have them, goodness gracious, yes, let's plop them up because we're doing them anyway. We just I'll speak for myself. We just don't really think about them because they're not important to us, right? We're doing them anyway. So then I
sort of take for granted that they're going to get covered, you know?
Yes, because of course they are.
Right.
There's no way you cannot cover them in the ORF approach.
Right.
So it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy.
It is easy.
And I put those standards on the Seesaw videos as well. So we're singing it around, state standard, whatever.
Sure.
You know.
Great.
Because that's what parents are used to. That's what they're used to. And they're used to having standards on report cards. And I want them to recognize music, all the other subjects. We are the same. We are the same.
Right.
That's so good.
That's good.
Yeah, and that's and again, it's just vocabulary. It's how they know to think about the value of curriculum. And if that's how they know to think about it, sure, fine. So easy to put a national standard up there.
Yeah.
You know? So I'll have the national standard up there. In the program notes, I will give parents something very specific to listen to or to watch for. And I think that's very helpful because when you look at the cacophony of an ORF classroom, you're like, what is happening?
Right.
So it's helpful to have somewhere that you can kind of direct that focus.
I've definitely felt that way this last week.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
Times in it's like, what?
Yeah.
Right. And I have my principal read the book.
Oh, cool.
Which book?
Any book.
During the
Any books that you
informants.
do for the informants. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I do base it off of a book. You certainly don't have to. There are a lot of teachers who do it kind of divorced of any sort of theme. I found that a theme is really helpful because I came from a performance background in my school. I wanted people to have something.
Well, everybody loves a story.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And we use books so often in our classroom.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, why would we not?
Yeah, I think it makes a beautiful performance piece.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like you've really struck on a system that worked for your community, and
Ooh,
I think that's
it
great.
did.
Yeah.
Yes. Parents were blown away. My husband said that after, I guess it was the K1, there were these two dads. Oh, and it is a big deal. Like people, I have to put out all of the information months and months ahead of time so that people can ask off work because you're going to have, it's going to be packed. There are going to be 400 people at your informants. Just because, I don't know, the performance of that area was just so strong. My husband was saying that after one, there were these two dads in like suits, and one of them looked over at the other one and he was like, that was cool. And they're like, that was awesome. Right?
That's amazing. And you've given them language to talk about why their kids are learning valuable things. You're raising advocates and your parents as well, which is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
We do sing fun songs in music. That's not all we do.
Right.
I love the advocacy of just music being standalone.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Every single
Music
time.
for music's sake.
Right, like
Yes.
it's like, well, you can enhance this by doing music. It's like, yeah, you could, but like, there's all this other good stuff that we can do. We just need a little time to do it.
Right. And so a lot of it in terms of advocacy is deciding what rubric people are using. And what are they basing value off of? And sadly, in an area, in an age where it is not about rote memorization, I'm not confident, guys. I'm not confident that every teacher is teaching this way. They're not, right?
Right.
Not every teacher is teaching with an approach that is student-centered and student-driven.
Yeah.
And has a very deep foundation of knowledge and skills that students need to have creative voices. And so then you're like, well, yeah, I mean, bummer. You know?
Yeah.
There are times where, as educators, like we have not answered that call for what students need. And then people say, well, we don't need music because they're not learning anything. And you go, I mean, sometimes they're not, I guess. Maybe it is just about a fun experience in some classrooms. But that cannot be what parents walk away from my informants thinking. They need to see the student impact in the process.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think also the fact that you showcase an improvisational aspect allows parents to see that, hey, my kids are learning and it's not just the correct or not the correct answer. It's about, hey, life is multifaceted.
Yes.
These kids are from TK. They're understanding it's not just binary. It's not just yes or no.
That. Yes. That. It's not just what the teacher said to memorize.
Yes.
With the vowel shape that they said to use.
Right. Yep. We're raising innovative learners and problem solvers to bring us into the next century. Yeah. It's important.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not sure if they'll go to the next century. Just saying.
You know what? With advances in medical technology.
That is true.
Yeah.
With
Bring,
that,
like, the
we're going to be
thinking.
heading to our next section of the podcast.
Hard left turn.
Hard left turn. We're going to Spiccato.
Hey.
Ha ha ha. Okay. I have brought something fun.
Okay.
It is a giant. This is a kit actually to make a rainbow beanie. So
that is awesome.
it's just a big spool of yarn and it comes with the pom-pom pre-made. So you don't have to
Neat.
keep it in a spool, but it came in a little wrapper and it looked like a cupcake and I thought it was fun. And it was in the clearance rack. Yeah, it's a fabulous hat, Mark. Mark is putting it on his head. You guys can pass it around. So you could deconstruct it and use just the yarn in your room or maybe just the pom-pom. But how would you use something like this in your room?
Does everybody get to answer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Take a little time to think
Just
about
you.
it.
Well, if it's a cupcake, then we'll pass it to a steady beat, and we'll do a rhyme about our birthdays: apples, peaches, pears, and plums. Tell me when your birthday comes, and that is a great thing to do with kindergarten, unless they don't know
Months yet.
their birthday, and then you just say, "Is it hot or cold outside?" Yeah. And then,
in
and
San
then
Diego.
But
it does not work as
Do
well.
they give their
Yeah, it does
answer in a
not.
beat too?
If they can, okay. So
Okay.
this we talked about authentic assessment.
Yeah.
If they keep it on their lap and they're bouncing it as they say, "My birthday's October," or, "My birthday's in December,"
And they're a kindergartner.
and they're in kindergartner,
yeah.
then I make a little note on their seating chart.
Yeah.
And I say, this is a very strong steady beat. If they can pass it in a steady beat when it gets to them, they go, it's in September. Then I go, yes, they passed it to the steady beat. Perfect. So that would
Janet's
be
struggling.
Johnny one.
No, there's no Johnnies with these examples here.
Specifically Johnny. And so that would be a 3. If they can keep a
Okay.
steady beat while they give their answer, then that would be a 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cute. So a little prop.
Yeah,
Little
so
steady beat prop.
if it's a cupcake, yeah, then for sure. If it's yarn, then I don't want to give a cop-out answer, but we're going to talk about pathway. We'll move to pathway. So I guess engine number 9 is just like my standard rhyme today, but it's so great. If we're doing engine number 9, then this is our train, and students are going to move around the room in the pathway, and someone can change where the train is going in the classroom, and maybe it leads to a tubano, or maybe it leads to an orff instrument, and the train is going to go up the mountain, down the mountain,
So you use it as a connector,
Yeah.
and the kids make the pathway with it.
Yes.
So it's a good, strong visual. I like that.
Yes.
That's great.
Next.
Jonathan.
I'm gonna do the answer that always happens.
That's okay.
My answer was Victoria's answer.
It's great pathway.
I second that.
Pathway.
Actually, no. I was thinking about, since we're in the middle of our
Orff
Orff training.
training.
Exactly. We had an activity with Josh Block, our movement teacher. I'm thinking just having this in the middle. Don't laugh at me. And then everyone just walks around. We take and someone alters it one way. I starting out with the whole movement shapes. Basing and creating movements based off of what comes of this lovely piece
as
of
a
yarn
pile of
eventually,
yarn?
but eventually becomes
As
Got
the
it.
cupcake
dismantled.
form.
Okay. So
As-
so not in the cupcake form. You would unravel the yarn.
I think probably start in cupcake form and then start deraveling or unraveling.
So make
that
images
people will
with the
get-
string and then experiment with different shapes of your body based on the
Right.
images people make. I like it.
how the cupcake crumbles.
Just because you thought about this for a long time, would you would model that first, right? Because if I was a student and so I saw that and I was like, what do I do with that?
Depends on the
I would
grade.
kick it.
Yeah.
Depends on the grade. Depends on
I'd throw it.
That's not making the teacher happy, Victoria.
Oh yeah, I wasn't that kid. I would do that as an
I'll
adult.
write that.
Yeah.
I'll write that too
Yeah,
for
that's
Victoria.
That's right.
Adult
No,
Victoria.
Now that we're
like-
surrounded
To
by
answer
other
your question,
teachers.
though, Mark,
sorry.
depending on the grade, depending on the age, and also how much experience we've done this before, I think I'd probably just give little words, but start out again stacked. Do maybe modeling pose, having people.
I don't
join
think
in.
it would be the first thing you would do in the
No.
day. There would be a lot building up to it.
Day one.
Josh, did.
Day one, kindergarten.
Yeah,
You
say
got
my
it.
kinder. Making this shit, children. Do it. For me, I see this as a prop to use with a puppet that the puppet can throw to students who need to improvise on whatever that is. So if you're working on recorder,
Great.
working on G and E, student or puppet will throw it because it's much less intimidating for a puppet to throw something at you than a teacher. And then there's that fun like, oh, where's it gonna go type thing, and then no one can catch it or it won't be caught, and it's just it's a prop that way.
I like
Love
it.
it.
I got to go to the coolest Orff mini conference in Northern California a few months ago, and it was taught by all Nordic instructors.
Oh.
So they were from Norway and Sweden, and the Finland team did a lovely warm-up activity with us for movement where everybody held on to one piece of yarn and they put music on, and we all had to dance around the room connected to our yarn, and we experimented with tension in different directions, different levels, and then they came around with scissors and clipped us into groups of 3. And the only rule was that you had to remain connected to your piece of yarn, and it was really neat.
But who gets the nose?
But who gets what?
Who gets the
the
nose?
nose? I don't know what I would do with
Nose
the
buddy
pom-pom.
does.
Nosebuddy does. It has a very sweet little pom-pom on top. I would probably save it for later, but I love to make yarn pom-poms, and I use them a lot in class for different things. They're nice, steady beat things, and
I love
they
it.
don't bounce, so they can't bounce off the ceiling.
Sure.
Yeah. So there you go. So
Nice.
Thank you for playing. That was great. And then we have a round of the week. Round of the week.
Our round of the week is Little Bitty Man.
Yeah. Victoria, would you sing it for us so we can learn your version?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to do his version.
Okay.
Okay, it goes. Little bitty man, Lord, Lord. Little bitty man, Lord, Lord. Little bitty man, Lord, Lord. Little bitty man, Lord, Lord.
Let's do it together. Ready?
Little
Bitty man, Lord, Lord. Little bitty man, Lord, Lord. Little bitty man, Lord, Lord. Little bitty man, Lord, Lord.
Picking up sand, Lord, Lord.
Picking up sand, Lord, Lord. Picking up sand, Lord, Lord. Picking up sand, Lord, Lord.
Grain by grain, Lord, Lord.
Grain by grain, Lord, Lord. Grain by grain, Lord, Lord. Grain by grain, Lord, Lord.
So twice 2. Girls start.
Twice through the whole
The whole thing, I
Love
think. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Or is it 2?
Where do we come in again?
Try it. Just try it.
Okay, Sydney.
Yes.
Let's do an eighth note round. Little.
Do you want to do 2 or do you want to do 4?
I don't care. Let's do 2.
Let's do 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Little bitty man, Lord, Lord. 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 Picking up sand, 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 Lord, Lord. Grain by grain, 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 Lord, Lord.
Grain by grain, Lord, Lord. Grain by grain, Lord, Lord.
Itty bitty man, Lord, Lord. Itty bitty man, Lord, Lord. Itty bitty man, Lord, Lord. Itty bitty man, Lord, Lord. Picking up sand, 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 Lord, Lord. Grain by grain, 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 Lord, Lord.
Awesome.
Let's do it again though, because we had a lot of fifths.
Oh,
Yeah.
we can do it
by
with
one
thirds.
beat, 1 beat.
Okay.
One beat.
1 beat.
So little bitty, little bitty.
Oh.
Okay. I think I changed it to itty
Let's try
bitty.
it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'll do it
it's
right.
fine.
I'm sorry.
Awesome.
Victoria, thanks so much.
Oh,
it was
thank
delightful.
you.
Thank
This was
you for
awesome.
such a great conversation. I'd love to wrap up with our coda. So tell us, do you have any fun projects you're working on, and where can people follow you?
Yes. So right now I am working on kind of a yearly roadmap for music teachers. Again, with the disclaimer, it's always different. Everything is moving and growing how it does in your own classroom, yada, 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 that disclaimer. But with the idea that templates are really helpful and being able to see what teachers are doing in their classroom is awesome. So I'm working on a subscription right now where I walk through the entire long-range planning process for my classroom. And then when it gets to the implementation, I essentially give half and then give an invitation for the teacher to create their half. So I say, this is how I made my activities. Here are some other samples that you could do. Do what's going to work in your classroom, but here's the process and here are the steps to take in implementing it. So it's something,
Lovely.
yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited about it because I want it to be template, not formula.
Sure.
People need a template.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Formulas are a little bit less helpful.
I like it.
Yeah, that's
I
my
like it
next
a lot.
project.
Very nice. Where can we find you?
So my website is wemakthemusic.org. You can also shoot me an email. I am victoria@wemakthemusic.org. Or you can find me on Instagram. I like to hang out there. My handle is Victoria Boler.
All right,
And
great.
Crystal, what are you doing? I might as well everyone share stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm really excited because I'm going to be focusing on after-school ensembles next school year. So,
are you gonna do?
Yeah, our school year's coming out soon.
Yeah, I know. We're starting in 2 weeks. So we're recording this in the middle of July or the beginning of July. So it's, here it comes, people. Here comes the school year. We have strings instruments from VH1 Save the Music. So we're going to be doing a couple different after-school ensembles. We're going to have orchestra for the kiddos who are interested. We're going to be giving it a go. I already had a little ukulele club that kind of sprang up informally. So I'm going to keep it. It's really cute. It's open to K through 6. And so everybody, it was really sweet because the big kids were helping the little kids. It was very cute. But they loved it. It was only about 12 kiddos who came in. It was very sweet.
Sure.
And then I had an Orff ensemble that we started last year that I'm excited to put a little more structure behind.
And it's an awesome Orff ensemble.
Thanks. They're
we had a
really
collaborative
great.
concert. It was just
They're great
amazing.
kids, and we have fun together. So yeah, looking forward to that. But follow me in the usual places at Finny Vappa on Twitter, and you can find me at crystalpridmore.com.
I am working on transferring a lot of the ORF knowledge, not a lot, but some of the ORF knowledge that we're learning to band. Just
Ooh,
because
that's huge.
there's so much that I feel could be there, and there's a lot of potential, especially with rounds and stuff, because like we played hot cross buns on bands so much, and I apologize if I offend.
No, you did nothing at all.
My sister teaches pigs like cheese. Pigs like cheese, pigs like cheese, piggy, pigs like cheese.
Do they like cheese though?
They do. Yeah,
pigs
they
eat most
sang it
anything.
at their concert,
Okay.
and the kids
Evidence.
go. The kids go. That's hot cross buns. And my sister's like, no, pigs like cheese.
Incorrect,
Read
child.
the board.
But yeah, so there's just a lot of really cool things and cool opportunities I think that we're missing that need to be
agree.
there. So I am working on that.
Awesome.
Great.
And where can they find you?
They can find me on the Twitter at Mr. Keehmer.
Are you going to release that project?
Maybe. If you ask for it, maybe.
Okay.
If you ask really nice.
Really nice.
Typically-
And pay
You
me
might share.
$30.
I am entering my 5th year teaching, which is strange to begin with, but every year I've been adding something new to my classroom. First year's choirs, then I had band, ukuleles. This is the first year I think I'm just want to just sit in and work and build off of what I have right now. I finally have enough ORF instruments for a class set. I have, I want to work on band to make it more orphified. So there's a lot of just digging deeper roots. That's my main project. And
Settle in.
settle in.
Yeah, love
and
it.
I got 1 week to do it before school starts. Yeah.
There you go.
And you can find me on the Twitterverse at Mr. Seligman, MrSeligman. My personal Twitter. You can just guess what that is. Just make a little raffle. Who knows? Maybe we'll find it.
Maybe you will. Ooh, the hunt is on.
The hunt is on.
Yeah.
I know it is.
I know you do.
And that's all the time we have today. Victoria, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us
Oh,
and sharing.
thank you.
Just real quick, you didn't ask me to do this, but if you're listening, go check out Victoria's stuff. It's amazing. It's high quality and it's so flexible. And I greatly appreciate that. So we appreciate you. Thank you so much. We can't wait to see what you got coming.
Yay.
All right.
Thanks.
Yay. Have a great week, everyone.
The Chaotic Harmony podcast is a joint project between Crystal Pridmore, Jonathan Seligman, Zoe Kumagai, and Marc Keehmer. You can find us online at chaoticharmonyclassroom.com. You can email us at chaoticharmonyclassroom@gmail.com and let us know what you think. Give us feedback about what you would like to hear in future episodes. We're on all the socials. Find us on facebook.com/chaoticharmonyclassroom. You can find us on Twitter at CHClassroom, Instagram at Chaotic Harmony Classroom, and you can even find our episodes on YouTube. Chaotic Harmony is the name of our channel. Special thanks to Brian Pridmore for his help with production and equipment. www.pridmoria.com.
Hold it. Yep. Take a drink of water, too.
Okay.
You guys are true friends.
Swish it around.
Dear
I'm
Lord.
just saying.
John, you
I'll
sound
take
like
one,
garbage right now.
Drink the water. Drink it.
Drink it, John.
Pee your pants.
I'm hearing mouth noises. You just have to drink water. We'll write a book. Right. Called The Oppressive Classroom.
Dumb music. 101 ways to get fired.
Jorge, are you following rule number 1? Right now you're being a
Welcome to Chaotic Harmony, where we try to read Crystal's handwriting behind
beautiful handwriting.
behind a microphone.
Matter with you? I tried to read mine yet. God, yeah, that's actually for real. Brian could be a doctor.
We're a mess if you didn't notice.
No, I didn't.
Not at all, but we're fun.
Is it little or itty?
I think we said
Liddy?
little.
Is it
Liddy,
Eensy
liddy,
Weensy or
liddy.
Itsy Bitsy Spider?
I'm sorry?
Is it the Eensy Weensy Spider or the Itsy Bitsy
Itsy
Spider?
Bitsy.
Itsy Bitsy?
I learned Eensy Weensy first.
Eensy Weensy.
Itsy bitsy.
Oh,
What'd you learn?
interesting. I don't know. I have no idea.
Controversy. I don't know.
It was a huge thing in my Kodai level 1 about which one it was.
Well, which one is it?
It depends on your
All right.
scholars.